All right, good afternoon. Again, my name is Erin O'Donnell. I'm the program coordinator here at American Makes and will be the technical point of contact for this RFP. We also are joined by John Wazinski, the American Makes Technology Director, and we will begin. There's a few important points to note. We are scheduled to hold the kickoff for an hour. We may not use that whole hour. The kickoff is being recorded and will be available along with the slides on the Project Call website. You can find those under the available resources. You will note the kickoff presentation aligns to the RFP. Due to us recording the kickoff, all mics are muted. Please type all of your questions in the Q&A box in the bottom right-hand side of your window. And once we've completed all the slides, we will address the questions. We will attempt to address all the questions during this hour. If we don't get to any, we will post the questions that were answered, as well as any that weren't, Friday afternoon underneath the Project Call website. So the topics to be discussed today, as I'd mentioned, follow suit with the RFP. We will be pointing out important points such as the schedule and due dates, the background objectives, and the project requirements. Also go over the funding and evaluation criteria, along with the other points you see within the slide. The schedule, also located in the RFP. Important notes are, please be aware that questions, so American Makes will open up the Project Call website or Project Call email to answer all questions about scope or approach. Those are due by August 8th. We will then post simultaneously all of the answers on the website on August 13th. There's also going to be a webinar because the project specifically relates back to one of the previous American Makes projects, 4039. So we've created a webinar to assist in finding information throughout the digital storefront. Another important note is the lead proposer must be an American Makes member by September 14th. And should there be any background IP, an NDA should be filled out by September 14th as well. And the most important date, all submissions are due September 28th by 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're now going to kick it over to John Wazinski, who will describe the background, objective, connection to the DoD roadmap, and other pertinent information.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to walk through just a little bit more detail on the background and objective. They've obviously aligned directly to the RFP, as Erin had mentioned, but just want to talk through it a little bit, see if that stirs up any questions that we can answer. So really the thing driving this project call and rationale for the Air Force allocating funding to this effort was to address this kind of major challenge related to, Erin, I just lost the screen.
You're coming back. Give us 1 second, we're coming back.
Okay, sorry. If I was supposed to do something, I didn't do it. So I'll keep going, but kind of what's driving this is this challenge of scaling. Everyone is aware that there's opportunity to improve efficiency if we're able to utilize multiple lasers, or obviously there's a perceived, there's a perception that that is a possibility and a route that many are wanting to go down, and honestly many are already going down that path. So there's a number of different application spaces where you could see how having builds that take, tens of hours, if not days, to realize is not going to work in the long run. So many are going and kind of racing down this path of how do we develop systems with multiple energy sources to improve efficiency. And many folks are already producing machines that have that capability inside or kind of built in it, and all of that is in an attempt to try to address speed, larger build volumes so that we're not taking days to produce components. And one of the big issues in realities of that is there's not really a lot of well-known strategies available for how to employ multiple lasers today. So even though there's work being done in that space, and we recently funded a project that's kind of connected to this space for trying to better understand the relationship of these lasers as they're working together, there's still quite a bit of unknown of what's really happening within the process. So that being said, and kind of understanding that space and kind of unknown within that space of what's going on is what was the genesis of this program. And the overall objective, as stated here, is to develop a open source multi-laser manufacturing research platform. So a few keywords in there. Open source is something that we really are expecting or really requiring as part of this. Obviously multi-laser, and really the one main use for this, and the reason that Air Force is very interested in this is to have a resource at the end of this program, or really during this program, that can be utilized for research and becomes an asset that is available to folks that are interested in researching this space and researching interactions of lasers and things of that nature. So that's one major objective of the program. We're expecting or looking for project teams as they're building their proposals to put together the project plan on how you're going to address improved part quality. So thinking of, we're trying to speed up overall operation of, manufacturing components. How do we quantify that production speed up that could be realized or that is realized by using multiple lasers, and what are quality improvements associated with using these multiple lasers? There's much opportunity when using more than one laser at a time to look at going back and potentially remelting areas, what that could do for your build, managing your being able to tailor your thermal approach. So being able to tailor that interaction where you want more heat or less heat, being able to vary those inputs. And again, we're focused here on putting together a system and developing this open system such that it can be used for research. So keeping that in mind, kind of the third bullet on this slide under objective is, we're looking for the teams proposing in this space to reference a past America Makes project, 4039, which is a project that was focused on developing an open source process control for AM. And it was a project that General Electric happened to be the primary or principal investigator on, but they did some really great work in that space, and we're looking to have teams leverage that resource. So Erin mentioned when she walked through the schedule, there was one line item on there that there's going to be a webinar next week, just for those who are not very familiar with how to navigate the digital storefront. So hopefully everyone is aware of what digital storefront is, but it is our, where we house data from current and past America Makes projects, as well as other, project data. But within that, all of the deliverables from Project 4039, this project that we're referencing, are there and available to reference. So the webinar will help you walk through, where that is, how to get access to it. Obviously, you need to have credentials to get into that, but all of that will be covered Tuesday if you happen to not be familiar with the digital storefront. if you are, you're hopefully have already looked in there and started to investigate the work that was done to figure out how that work can be leveraged and can be kind of built on as you're putting together your program plan for the system that you're developing. If you go to the next slide, Aaron, so there's, in the RFP, there are a number of, or at least a couple of different places that reference connection to roadmaps. So there's really two different portions that are referenced within the RFP. One is the reference back to the America Makes roadmap, so kind of the roadmap that is broken down into our 5 major swim lanes that we've been working on, and many of you are hopefully very aware of. You know, there's direct connection between the work that's going on here and the America Makes roadmap, and there's some linkage there. So there's some, you know, references that you can get into that are, again, available through the digital storefront, where you can see the specific technical objectives and specific requirements that fall underneath those critical technology elements that are called out. This slide is a more direct call out to work that was done with the DoD to develop the DoD Integrated Additive Manufacturing Roadmap that was published, you know, going on 2 years ago now, but it's still very relevant. And what we're seeing is that some of the specific topics that were identified through all of the work that was done with all of the services in DLA was, you know, it was a large effort to bring folks together around, you know, the various topics. But what we found is that some specific requirements have kind of bubbled up and continue to be identified by folks, and there's a really nice direct connection between the requirements that were called out in the DoD roadmap and what we're looking for here in this effort. So, and you'll see that trend as you look at, you know, this call and future calls that start coming out. There's a lot of connection back to work that's been done over the last few years and work that's been done with many of you as well. So, you know, the high-level DoD requirements that are called out were developing open architecture equipment, and, you know, really it says modifying existing or developing new process capabilities. So this is more focused on, you know, new process capabilities. These are some references that you can look through. DoD roadmap is something that is available. You can find it on our website under the kind of technology, or I believe it's under our work, then technology. I'm sure most of you have already reviewed that, but at the near the end of that document are the specific call-outs of what are called technology elements within that document, and these specific, you know, requirements that have been identified. So, you know, they're pretty obviously neatly aligned in development of open architecture platforms. You know, the emphasis of this project, or one of the major focus areas of this effort in particular, is looking to develop this open system, you know, and for research use. And what that really means is, you know, we want to make available a system through this program that folks can research and start to, you know, have much more control over the different parameters that could be set. So what we're wanting to enable is the ability to, you know, have more control over different parameters and settings that than you may have, or than you likely have on commercial equipment that you have today. So, and Aaron will talk a little bit about this in the end, but there's some expectations that you'll see as far as development of the system, ultimate delivery of that, and support of that system. So we're trying to build this open platform so that people are able to have control such that they can go off and do the much needed research in this space, and specifically needed research in when we're thinking of how multiple lasers interact. And then, you know, what we know we're addressing through that is really that second kind of major list there, P4, developing new process capabilities and specifically addressing capabilities for large part processing, because we know, especially in a couple industries, energy, automotive, they're looking to utilize, figure out where AM fits in. Speed is not currently, obviously this is based on application, but deemed accessible, and the just overall build chambers and things like that. So we're looking to explore that space. It's not an expectation that we build a monstrous system here or anything like that, but and there's some details in the requirements called out here later. And the ability to really understand more of the interaction at different scales, how we are able to, modify and adjust lasers where we need them, when we need them, and things of that nature. So that's really the kind of high-level connection between the America Makes roadmap, DoD roadmap, and the specific call-out of what we're looking to address under this particular effort. So if you go to next slide, Aaron, the specific requirements for the project. From the fabrication point of view, we're looking for this to have at minimum 2 400-watt lasers, and we need it to be, the second bullet there is controllable by the America Makes open source protocol. So that's, again, the reference there in parentheses, 4039, is something that if you're not familiar with it, you need to go off and review that so that you understand how to incorporate that in. Another thing that we're interested in, kind of as they're listed as add-ons, but is what are, how do we incorporate in situ sensing capability, and how do we incorporate ambient heating to reduce induced thermal gradient? So how do you use the lasers to potentially impact or to ultimately reduce thermal gradient concerns? So they're not absolutely necessary, but they're things we're definitely looking for folks to try to include within their program. Next slide is project considerations, and maybe I'm turning it back to you, Aaron.
Sure, J-Dub, I can take over from here. So an important note is the critical design review. You'll notice it says prior to month 4 of the period of performance. So the team selected for the project will have to meet with AFRL and NCDMM to provide and brief out the machine design. And then at that time, they will create the milestone review and schedule to ensure that the project is progressing the way that the schedule follows. This will also, those milestone reviews is important to note that similar to the other America Makes projects, those will also be what we would call a gate review, so a go, no-go. So it's important to take note of that as you're creating your schedule. Another piece of information is the initial capability demonstration. So it has to be a class 1 device, multi-laser beams, and ambient temperature built. They have multi-beam research, as J-Dub had mentioned, and probably publish a recommendation for future hardware capabilities. So those are considerations as you write your proposal. We'll now discuss the funding. So as the RFP stated, the subcontract award for funding is $2.1 million. There's a cost share match of at least 25%. That brings the project total to $2,625,000. The period of performance will be 39 months. That includes the 36 months of technical period of performance and then 3 months for reporting and documentation. Important to note is the incremental funding projection. So I've listed this here to assist the teams with a realistic cost and budget planning submission. So when you're creating your budget for the proposal submission, please take these numbers into account. There are possibilities that year 3 could be introduced into year 1 or 2, but as it stands, I would attempt to plan your project around these funding amounts. Deliverables. So deliverables for this project, so the ALSAM project, will include, similar to American Makes projects, monthly reporting. This will include the technical, financial, including cost share. That will be due monthly on the 10th of every month to the PM. At the project conclusion will be a final report. The critical design review, we had mentioned in slides before, is due before the 4th month of the period of performance, or at the period of performance. And then I want to specifically point out the dates for when the deliverables are due to AFRL or American Makes. The reason being is this machine is a deliverable. It will be located at AFRL or American Makes, and I'd like everyone to consider the deadlines while writing your proposal to ensure that this is and can be completed by the project team within that time period. Project call evaluation criteria. So the executive summary will be up to 5%. The technical approach and methodology, how you're going to create that machine, will be up to 50%. Technology dissemination to American Makes members and the impact to the United States Air Force, up to 30%. And your program management approach, how you're going to run your program, your teams, your schedule, and your costs are up to 15%. Project call exhibits. So similar to our other RFPs, we have project call exhibits. All of those have been included in the RFP that's available under the available resources at the American Makes website. You will notice they are in Word, and this is so they can be easily converted into your proposals. Reporting, similar to the American Makes projects in the past, there will be monthly status reporting. There will also be expectations that the teams will present either at an MMX, TRX, at a webinar. There will also be virtual monthly meetings. A kickoff meeting is expected to happen within 30 days of contract award, and delivery of the project CDIP is to be identified and completed for the proposal stage. And then, as we mentioned, by the end of the month, we have the final report is due. So an important piece to note for the proposal is that, unlike the last 2 project calls, there will be no concept paper. The concept paper will be eliminated, and we are only doing a full proposal. So teams will have approximately 60 days to write that full proposal and submit it to American Makes. So I just want to make sure everyone noted there's no concept paper for this project call. As we mentioned before, the digital storefront webinar, that will be held Tuesday, July 31st at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We have a link that is connected on this on the presentation. It is also out under the ALSAM project call webpage. Please register and plan to attend that to get the information from Digital Storefront to assist in the 4039 alignment to the project call. Very important note, the annual American Makes membership fees must be paid in full to access the Digital Storefront. So if you have any questions on your status, please contact Tiffany Westbay, our membership director, and she will be able to assist you to make sure that you can access the Digital Storefront. Questions and answers. So per the schedule, the American Makes team will be accepting questions regarding the scope and project call. Please have those questions submitted by August 8th. All questions will be directed to the project call at americamakes.us. There are also, under each project call webpage, a project call frequently asked questions. Please review those frequently asked questions before you submit your questions to the email, due to your question might already have been answered in that frequently answered questions. Two very important notes are questions will not be answered individually. So besides today's questions, I will post them on Friday. Once you've submitted a question, all questions will be posted online on August 13th so that everyone gets their answers to their questions at the same time. Another important note is questions directed to NCDMM personnel and not to the project call website or email will not be considered. So to make sure that your questions get answered, please send them to projectcall@americamakes.us. And that's the conclusion of our project call kickoff for the ALSAM project calls, with full proposals due September 28th. Do we have any questions?
Yep, so I see a few on here, Aaron, that we can go through now. We'll capture official responses to these and post them, but they'll be in line with what we say right now, just so you get the same message. So first question that came in, and I don't know that folks can see these or not, so I'll read them. First question is, will the program allow electron beam melting printing technology to participate? Answer to that is no. We're focused solely on laser here. So what we're looking for teams to submit on, and what the work in 4039 was really focused on, was laser. So we were looking for a laser technology solution. The second question that is posted here is, if we do not win this contract as an America Makes member, will we have full access to the project results and the follow-on R&D results? So the answer to that is yes. As a member, you will get access to all of the results of the program, and all of that will be posted in the digital storefront for you to review and access. Is the second half of that, and follow-on R&D results. So if there are results specifically related to the program that were developed under the funding dollars, then yes, you will get access to that. If it is results that are based on somebody utilizing this piece of equipment down the road, that is, the expectation is that that will not be communicated. It will be only results as funded under this particular effort. The next question here, rolling off the screen. Is there a requirement that the machine be located at America Makes or AFRL? And I believe, Aaron, I don't know if you know the specific language, but I think it calls out either or, but I don't recall. I don't know if you remember.
So yes, there is a specific requirement that the machine be located at America Makes or AFRL. That can be determined during the critical review happening within the first 4 months, whether it be at AFRL or at America Makes, but it will be on one of those sites.
I'm reading through these on the fly. Next one up is, and first I have a question for you, Aaron. Can Mark talk or not at this stage of the game? Do we know?
Yep, Mark should be able to. Mark Benedict from AFRL should be able to talk.
Mark, can you see the questions at all if you're online?
Yeah, I saw the one about location, but
yeah.
I cannot see the rest.
The next question is, and a couple of these we might have to convene on, but I'll read them anyways on the fly here. Can we propose building 2 systems, one for delivery to the AFRL and one to remain at a university for student training and academic fundamentals research projects? I think if the requirement is to deliver a system to America Makes or AFRL. So as long as that requirement is met and all other requirements of the program are met, I think that's okay.
I agree, yeah. I think that would be fine.
Next question is the intent to open source the system to the broader community, or will results be limited to America Makes membership? And if the answer is the latter, to America Makes membership, will this be for a limited time?
So I don't see a time limitation on the results or the machinery, but the intention is not to commercialize any capability. This is more about fostering open research and creating carefully controlled experiments. So yeah, I don't think the intention is to commercialize or encourage necessarily direct distribution of the developed system beyond the instantiation that will be delivered.
Perfect. The next question is there interest in creating a new project call for a large-scale electron beam system? I won't speak for the Air Force. I mean, we've heard of a similar need. I think we're very interested in exploring lots of options, but I think as directly related to this program, that would be for a future discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't, the funding as laid out is a challenge to meet the current requirement of understanding some of the physics occurring in a multi-beam laser system. Electron beam systems are of interest for certain alloy classes and material problems, but that's essentially a whole separate funding line would have to be found for that problem.
Next up, and I don't know that we hit on this as cleanly as we could have, but next question is in previous ALSAM presentations, it was suggested that the cost share requirement might be addressed at least in part through future service maintenance agreements. Is this correct? So I believe the way it reads right now is the expected, and maybe I'm not understanding this question correctly, but that the system would be delivered within the first 2 years of the program, and then the 3rd year there would be support provided as part of the program plan as proposed. So that is absolutely an intention, and if you're suggesting the associated service and maintenance associated to that year, I would say the answer is absolutely that's included. If it's being suggested that beyond the 3 years, the maintenance and service of that system be offered up as cost share, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that we've, unless Mark, you have an answer, I don't know that we've talked through that.
Well, I think it's desired, but how you cost that out exactly is an open question, I think. But, it's clear that we realize that many of the solutions will be, research apparatus that don't have the robustness of a commercial off-the-shelf system. And therefore, the delivery in year 2 and maintenance through year 3 is desired. And how you budget that, whether it's cost share or not, I think is open to evaluation by the team. But certainly that the intention is that we need at least a full year of effectively a shakedown of the system to get some sense of how to maintain it and what maintenance issues we're likely to encounter.
If and we'll answer this when we put together our answer, but if it is intended to mean, go ahead.
Yeah, so and one clarification, I suppose, is that, you know, any formally reported cost share, so things that you could count towards your contribution, has to occur during the period of performance, so within that 36-month window.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. If it was suggested that the cost share be outside of that period of performance, I think we, American Makes, are very interested. I mean, we would be very interested in accepting that as cost share, but not as cost share connected to this project. So in year, say, 4, that is absolutely cost share we would be interested in discussing, but it could not count for against the program or against this specific project funding.
Right, it might count against member dues as an example, but it wouldn't count against the requirements of, you know, this particular project.
Next question is, will AFRL, American Makes, issue a waiver of liability, or would the machine builder have a continued liability associated with the machine post-contract? I don't know the answer to that from an American Makes point of view. I'm sure we have an answer, but I will check with our contracts and legal folks to get the correct, properly documented answer captured here. Next question is, how will the review committee assess proposals that have a high proposition of background IP in the final system?
So I think, you know, at high proportion, right, understood. You know, I don't think that is viewed as a negative at all. You know, the intention is really not to challenge, you know, the creativity space of implementation opportunities, as long as it can mimic those minimum requirements that we set forth, i.e., you know, multiple 400-watt laser sources, and be able to replicate some of the, you know, the conditions that we're concerned about. And certainly those will be conveyed, you know, more formally during some of the review processes and calls, but I think we laid forth what most of those are, and, you know, the intention is to explore some of the same parameter space that commercial systems currently are utilizing. But if there's a high proportion of proprietary hardware implementation, that, you know, I mean, that would be protected. That's not something that would be consortia property. And, you know, the intention would be as long as, you know, it's respecting the requirements of using the open source protocol delivered in 4039 and meets the physical processing requirements that we ask for, then yeah, it won't be viewed unfavorably at all, and expanded capability might be viewed favorably, but it might also be factored in as a risk element depending how well that technology has been documented and shown to be performant.
And one key point there, just, you know, from kind of across the board that's related to that point, expecting that there is going to be background IP, as there is on many of the projects proposals as submitted. Please make sure to take time and put appropriate amount of effort into documenting that background IP so we have a clear understanding of what is being leveraged. Again, as Mark mentioned, it's not that it is going to be viewed unfavorably, but we need to have a clear understanding of what you're coming to the table with, and obviously have everyone's best interest in mind in making sure that that is all protected properly, but we need to understand that you know, up front when we're reviewing the proposals. That was the last question, Aaron, that I see that came across here. But I think
all right,
unless
so
else has any coming up, we're good on questions for right now.
as we mentioned, oh, J-Dub, one more just came in. Can unit be based on a COTS unit, or is there an expectation for a bespoke solution?
So I think that's the offer's choice, as long as, you know, that there's no legal liability to using a COTS system, a modified COTS system. It still has to, again, be able to be driven through the 4039 software, which I don't think any COTS system right now complies with. But, you know, I think that's the offer's decision.
And one qualifier there, and we'll add this as a question, just to make sure it's captured, Aaron. But so you just mentioned, and we said this repeatedly, that the system has to be able to be driven by the protocol as developed under Project 4039. So that's clear. But it is, and I believe it's called out this way in the RFP, it has to be able to be driven. That's not suggesting that there are not other ways that the system can be controlled, correct? That there may be multiple approaches of control, but
absolutely.
What was that, Mark?
Absolutely, yes. You can use any other control scheme you desire, as long as it, in addition, will fully support the 4039 protocol. And, you know, I'm not sure if it's mentioned in the project call, but for those of you who go and look at those project results, they were intended for a single beam system in their initial instantiation, but we will supply software that is capable of multi laser actuation to the consortia in general, but that will be made available in the next 3 to 6 months, so before the project is fully underway.
All right, we have another question. As there are companies that can provide open source machines, would this program see as competitive a machine that is based on this commercially supplied machine and adapted for this specific requirement?
I mean, it would be qualified for consideration, I believe, yes. Competitive is hard to say until we see the field of proposals that we get. Certainly, no, I mean, I think it's on the proposer to look at the budget and decide what they can deliver within that time and scope of funding, and deliver as much as they feel confident they can. And if that's a COTS system that can be adapted to the 4039 protocol, then so be it. But, you know, again, we're looking for, you know, it's really a competition, so, you know, I think that's probably all I can say there.
All right, so we don't have any more questions in the queue. So we have until August 8th to submit your questions to projectcall@americanmakes.us. They will be answered and posted on August 13th underneath the American Makes project call for ALSAM. We appreciate you all calling in and participating, and look forward to your proposals on September 28th. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.